The purpose of this recording is to discuss the following. Whether or not Goldberg is guilty of ending/ruining Bret Hart's career at STARCADE 1999.
This is quite a Goldberg heavy channel nowadays.
It's just that there's a lot of controversy surrounding Goldberg, I guess.
There is, which I think is actually pretty unfair. Do we blame Goldberg for ruining/ending Bret Hart's career in 1999?
No, I don't. I will go as far as saying it wasn't Goldberg's fault, and Bret Hart is a bitter old bitch.
So what I will say is this: I'm not a doctor, and I haven't seen the medical notes, and the only person that's going to know the ins and outs of this is going to be Bret Hart. But he basically had a stroke, didn't he?
Yeah.
I will be surprised if they can link it directly to that one head kick.
Yeah, almost certainly not.
I will be. I think it's probably more likely that back in 1999, wrestling didn't really have concussion protocols, and Bret Hart, probably the maniac that he is, that loves pro wrestling and will continue to wrestle every single day if he could, probably had a build-up of multiple concussions, and this was just the straw that broke the camel's back. I still kind of shrug and go, get over it still.
One of the first things I said to Bill Goldberg going out to the ring was for Bill not to hurt me. I said, Bill, whatever you do, don't hurt me. So we went in and had the match, and there's one part in the match where he gave me a elbow in the face. This one that he gave me would be about the same as someone taking a brick in a pillowcase and just swinging it at you absolutely as hard as you can. And you can see Bill go, oh, like, sorry. And I'm like hanging there going, holy shit, this guy makes Vader look like Shawn Michaels, you know. I rolled out on the floor. I tried to do that figure four spot, in which the trick to the figure four spot on the post is that he's got to grab my foot. When I get my foot up on the apron, he's got to grab my foot to slow my momentum down. He goes to grab my foot, I go to fall back, he lets go of my foot. I smash my head on the floor, so I got two really good whacks on the head. And I fell down. When I got out of that hold, I buckled on top of myself with all my weight, so I actually folded up like an accordion. I don't know what I did, but I could hardly take a breath after that. It almost affected me being able to finish the match. And those are both Bill's fault, both those two, especially the forearm. So then I go in the ring, he throws me in the ropes for this mule kick. And if you ever watch it back, there's no work in it whatsoever. He threw me in the ropes and kicked me with every ounce of strength he had in his whole body. His leg is completely straight. That was the injury. I remember in the dressing room, nobody took care of me. There's no doctor. I had a trainer come up and hand me a couple of Advils. No one helped me to my car. No one took me to the hospital or checked on anything. I got back to my hotel room that night, staggered through the lobby of the hotel, barely made it to my room, passed out with all my clothes on the bed.
How do you feel like 25 plus years later, Bret Hart still like has this animosity, it feels like?
I really don't care anymore about Bret. I could care less. Shortly thereafter, all that shit that happened, I talked Louis into giving Bret Hart a job at Legends of Wrestling. He must forget about stuff like that. You know, he must forget about the conversations we had back then. But
I think people don't think you guys have talked since that match.
Well, we've talked a couple times. As of late, because of the things coming out of his mouth, I don't really know that I would be talking to him if I saw him. But hey, man, I'm 57 years old. I don't need to prove anything to Bret Hart or to any other human being. You know, the fact is, it was a mistake. I was extremely green in the business, and you know, if I intended to hurt him, then I'd be the first one to tell him.
Sure.
And you and everyone else. But man, I was green, dude. I mean, it was a screw up in the match, and it's live on national television.
Yeah.
Things went awry, and it is what it is.
I think Goldberg is actually pretty much the victim in this situation.
Goldberg's the victim. Okay.
Pretty much. I mean, like, if you put yourself in his position, right? How unfair it would be if you were in his position, right? So, how long has he been in the business by December 1999? Year and a half? 2 years? And you are going into the biggest pay-per-view of the year for WCW in the main event against Bret Hart, right? He's completely green. And as far as I know, that match was called in the ring. Well, I'm sorry. That's not fair. Bret Hart has, what, how long at this point? 15 years experience in the business?
Probably more.
And you walk out to the ring with this guy who doesn't know what he's doing. And in Bret Hart's own words, the only thing I said to Bill before the match was, "Don't hurt me." Well, thanks, Bret. Appreciate it, pal. That's really helpful advice for this rookie who's well out of his depth and in a position that he's probably really struggling with. Instead of that, what you maybe should have done, right, is what DDP did a year and a bit before this at Halloween Havoc when he spent weeks training with Goldberg and put together a match move by move by move and then actually had like a 4.5 star classic in 10 minutes. I struggle to have as much sympathy as for Bret Hart as Bret Hart clearly feels he deserves because you're the veteran in this situation. And you know this dude's out of his depth, so why aren't you taking extra steps, extra precautions, extra? Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
You know what that he's not very good. If you say to a guy who's not very good and not very experienced and a bit nervous and insanely strong and powerful and explosive, if you say to him, "We'll call it in the ring," and then at some point he throws a head kick at you and he hits you in the head, kind of whose fault is that?
You make very good points. Actually, you know what I was going to say, and I think this is actually wrong. I was going to say I wonder if Bret Hart would be more open to what happened to him if Goldberg apologized, but I think Bret Hart's come out and said like Goldberg never apologized or never reached out to him or something like that. I might be wrong about that, but I think I recently heard that where he was basically like, Bill never said anything to me, he never came to the hospital or anything. I'm not convinced. Now, I would say maybe that's why, but actually, I think if Bill Goldberg had done that, I don't think Bret Hart would have changed his mind. I don't think Bret Hart would be walking around now going, "Oh yeah, he's a good lad." I think he'd still be just as pissed off,
Yeah, of course
and,
he
and,
would.
and would probably be going, and he tried to apologize, like I should accept that. But I don't want
Yeah.
like, so I imagine Goldberg's kind of in a lose-lose situation.
And worked with Bill Goldberg the following night. I don't remember getting hurt, but I certainly never was a picnic. I worked with Benoit in Salisbury, Maryland, and they have a match where Goldberg runs out. And you probably know the story about him chasing out of the ring, and then he punches his hand through a window.
Right.
And so Bill, who got hurt with the thing on his elbow, I remember I called Bill, and as messed up as I was at home with my concussion, and was worried about his arm. Never ever did get a call back. I wrestle on for 3 or 4, I wrestled till January 11th, I think. I'm being choke slammed every night by Sid. I'm being power bombed by Kevin Nash. All the worst things you can have with a concussion. When Sid power bombed me in that match with him, he interfered at the end. When he power bombed me at the end of that, I saw 1,000,000 stars. And I said, "Okay, you've had another concussion." Like I could tell, I had rocked my head. But anyway, the point I was going to make about Bill was that I called Bill when he hurt his arm, which was a serious injury. I never heard from Bill Goldberg once the whole time I was injured. He ended my career. He hurt me in all, even if, aside from the monetary damage that I lost, just the concern and fear I had from a brain damage. But he definitely, positively, for sure, ended my career.
You know what it is? It's just weird because there are I reckon you could go through Bret Hart matches, and I reckon you could find times when, say, The Undertaker's choke slammed him and it's gone a bit wrong and he's landed on his hip or something, or he's been power bombed and Nash has dropped him a bit funny. You know what I mean? There must be things like that, but I bet he wouldn't complain about that. He wouldn't. He'd just be like, "Well, we've done it 1,000 times before and it was all fine."
Let's not forget as well, the way people talk about this, right? It's as if Bret Hart got kicked in the head and then had to be stretchered from the ring and never wrestled again. Actually, what happened was he got kicked in the head, got up, continued the match like nothing had happened, right? And then in the following weeks had a mid-card match with Jerry Flynn of all fucking people, and then had a hardcore match with Terry Funk. who proceeded to smash him in the head with a
Yeah.
trash can, right? And I'm like, oh yeah, but of course Terry Funk's Bret Hart's friend. So it's not Terry Funk's fault that he
Yeah.
had a stroke 2 years later.
I mean, this is the kind of thing where I go back to and I go, I'd like to speak to the specialists who saw it, who said, yeah, we can narrow it down to this exact thing. Like, you can't. Sorry. If there was a dozen wrestlers who all went, I had to stop my career because I had a stroke when Goldberg kicked me in the head, I'd go, yeah, it sounds like it's Goldberg's kick then. Yeah, like you should not stop doing that. But there's not. But yeah, but Bret Hart, you think he is just a grumpy old man, like about everything. I think he just has that kind of personality where if you do something wrong to him, that's it for the rest of your life.
Because Goldberg isn't liked by smart fans, quote unquote, and Bret Hart was the best technical wrestler of all time or whatever, right? Because of those factors, Goldberg tends to get way too much heat for being reckless and dangerous, which I don't think is true.
Was Bill Goldberg reckless? No. Bill Goldberg was green, and he was trying to learn. When you're in the ring and you're trying to learn, you're going to be accidentally reckless. So he didn't mean to be reckless. He's trying to make it look as good as he can, and he's green. Even though wrestling is predetermined, it's so much rougher than people really know. But to Bill Goldberg, it's barely predetermined because he just brings it every match. So I wouldn't say he's reckless. Reckless makes him sound like he don't care. He cared. He really tried. My first match back, I wrestled Bill Goldberg and Rick Steiner on my first match back for my broken neck. 10 months after my broken neck, which was April of 1998, 10 months later, Dean Dome, North Carolina, main event, Nitro, and Bill wasn't reckless. Bill was just stiff. I love wrestling Bill because he was wide open. But, unsafe would be the next example. I think sometimes he was unsafe because he just was green. I mean, when you got a big old guy up and you got to bring him down for that jackhammer, there's inches involved where you could mess people up. And he didn't. He did a hell of a job, man.
I remember someone else who really, really, really hurt a guy, a really massive star, and derailed his career and made him retire way earlier than he probably should have had to. And that person, I know it's sacrilege, Owen Hart. If Goldberg is reckless, Owen Hart is also reckless. Owen Hart did a standing sit-out tombstone pile driver on Stone Cold Steve Austin. And Stone Cold Steve Austin, he talks about talking to Owen Hart before the match, and Owen Hart saying, I'm going to do this sit-out tombstone, and him basically going, you don't mean that though, because that won't be safe, will it? Because I need clearance. And he was going, no, it'll be fine. And because Owen Hart was known to be a ribber, right? Austin just went, yeah, whatever, he'll look after me, right?
Yeah.
And he thought, and so this is what I'm saying. If it's dangerous to kick a guy in the head, what's really dangerous, right, is to get yourself into a position where people don't really understand whether or not you're joking about some shit that you say, and then you drop them on their head with a move that they weren't expecting you to actually do because they thought you were joking. And to the point where, hey, Bret Hart got kicked in the head, and he might have laid there for a minute, and then he got up and carried on the match like nothing happened. Stone Cold Steve Austin was paralyzed. He laid in the ring, unable to move, for 90 seconds.
And then
That is the most terrifying thing I could imagine happening.
I was told that I was going to win the Intercontinental title belt back from Owen on that night. The stipulation to my challenge was that if I couldn't beat him and win, I was going to have to kiss his ass. We really built that up on TV as a major deal. So the day came and I was talking to Owen in the back and we were throwing a few things together for the finish of the title match. I said to him, well, what if we do that thing where I come in for the elbow and you rotate your back around and pick me up upside down and give me the tombstone pile driver? I added, now Owen, I don't trust just anybody to do a pile driver to me, but you can do it, right? And he said, yeah. I said, you're going to go to your knees, right? And he said, no, I'm going to drop to my ass. Then I said, well, you need to go to your knees, right? And he said, "No, I dropped to my ass." And I was thinking, I'm dealing with Owen Hart. I guess he knows what he's doing. He's ribbing me about dropping to his ass instead of his knees. So I figure, Owen's got it. The match went along and it was a good match. Eventually we set up the pile driver spot. And he picked me up, upside down, and wham! Dropped straight to his ass. There was simply no room for me to protect my head. I weighed 250, he weighed 225 or thereabouts at the time. But with the jump up and the impact down, man, I got spiked headfirst into the mat hard as hell. That's one of the things that's going to turn you into a quadriplegic quicker than anything. I remember kind of picking my head up from the mat and telling the referee, Earl Hebner, "Tell him not to fucking touch me, I can't move." A minute or a minute and a half went by and I finally started getting a little bit of feeling back in my limbs. Still, we had to get to the finish, and I had to win. So I was crawling around on my elbows and I told the referee, "Roll up for the win." He told Owen what I'd called, and the next thing that happened was I did the worst looking roll up in wrestling history because I couldn't use my limbs. Somehow I managed to hold Owen on his back and get a 3 count out of it. I meant for that to be the end of it, but Owen kicked right out after 3. Why? To make himself look strong like he was barely beat. That kick out hurt me like hell too, and could easily have injured my neck further. All the referees came out to the ring, and it took 3 of them to pull me to my feet. I got my arms around them, and they tried to hold me up and hand me the title belt, but my legs were dragging and I could barely walk. Despite everything, I got up the next day and drove to Bethlehem, Pennsylvania to do Raw, cut a promo on Owen, because I'm Stone Cold Steve Austin. The next few days, I went and got a bunch of doctor's reports. Every doctor I went to said to get out of wrestling. The medical name for my condition was central cord compression. But I was told that I could get some relief from surgery, so I set out to find a doctor who could do it. So I got the big operation in 1999, a full 2 years after the pile driver. It was 2 years of nagging pain. At that point, I didn't know if I was going to be able to come back or not. I had no idea if I was ever going to get back in the ring. If I'd had to venture a guess, I would have guessed that my wrestling career was over. I got level 3 and 4 fused together. It took close to a year, but Dr. Youngblood finally gave me the clearance to get back in the ring. Owen Hart never called me after he pile drove me and injured me. I heard that his brother Bret kept telling him to call me, but we never connected. Did I hate Owen? No, that's just the business, and we weren't really friends to start with. Did I want to work with him after that? No, I didn't. When he didn't call me at my house afterwards, that kind of pissed me off a little bit. It was like, hey, if I damn near paralyzed someone, I'd be calling them every damn day of the week. The WWE merchandise department came out with a t-shirt that said Owen 316, and on the back it said, "I just broke your neck." I thought that was pretty damn cheesy. If I was going to get any of the royalties off that one, maybe I would have liked it better. But if he's going to put the money in his pocket for messing my life up, I wasn't real fond of that. Anyway, it was just one of those things, and I'm still paying for it now. That's the way it goes in the wrestling business. It ain't ballet. Things happen, and that time it happened to me. But I ain't going to sit here and cry about it. I just deal with it every single day.
He rolled Owen Hart up, and at the last minute, Owen Hart kicked out so that he didn't look weak in this fake sport, and bucked the guy whose neck he'd just broken in the head again. It's like, thanks, dude. Hey, Bret, if you want to start calling people reckless and pointing fingers and saying that certain people owe certain other people amounts of money, right? Let's put it this way. The kayfabe amount of money that the pro wrestlers win every year for winning the Owen Hart tournament in AEW should all go straight to Stone Cold Steve Austin. If he had wrestled until he was 50, how much fucking money would Stone Cold Steve Austin would have made? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if we're going to start complaining about people being reckless and then not apologising for it afterwards, right? And again, I know that you're not allowed to slag off Owen Hart because he died in a workplace accident, right? I know that they're not allowed. But if we're going to slag off Goldberg because of what he did to Bret Hart, then we probably also need to put in that stable of dangerous, unsafe workers. You know, Goldberg can be the leader if you want. Goldberg can be Hulk Hogan, but Owen Hart has to be Kevin Nash.
Could be the third one. Of the shorten someone's career recklessly.
D'Lo Brown.
Yeah, there we go. No, I think that's a good 3. That's a good 3. But no, yeah, I know we kind of glaze Goldberg on, but we don't, because we're very open about his failings and how he isn't very good.
Mm.
But people go so overboard of it. It's almost ludicrous.
Yeah.
And I have to say, with the Owen Hart comparison, I think you've won me over. I agree. You can't say that about Goldberg. You have to say that the same about Owen Hart. So I think you've convinced me, 100%.